Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Board of Directors report. Who would like to give that today?
I will start and John will jump in as needed. So the TIP amendment number 5 to officially make FY29 a programmed year was approved as part of the consent agenda at our board meeting in July. The board also heard an information item on the safety action plan, which is probably similar to what you will hear later today. The board also heard the CDOT 10-year plan presentation from Shane Ferguson. There was quite a bit of discussion regarding the 10-year plan and a desire expressed by the jurisdictions for more collaboration, more of a bottom-up process than a top-down process, and a focus on the 3C process. There was also some discussion about some dissatisfaction with Policy Directive 14, which was passed by the Transportation Commission earlier this year. Ultimately, I believe the vote was a 9-6 vote to not approve the 10-year plan.
Is that right? Or did we, 10-6?
10-6. 10-6. Thank you, Jared. The result of that, we're not quite sure yet. I think that's still more information to come. But that was the result of the board meeting.
Any questions? Comments?
I do have one question. Do you think there is a potential that the board is going to ask to rehear that item, the 10-year, CDOT's 10-year plan?
I don't know if the board wanted to do that. I'm not the strongest Robert's Rules of Order guy, but I believe someone who would have had to have voted for the way the motion went, in this case, no, would have to ask for a motion of reconsideration. And then we would put that on the agenda and we would agendize it, and then they could redo the vote. But I believe unless there is something new, a new request that looks similar, nothing currently is on the agenda. So either it would be initiated by a board member who wanted to do a motion of reconsideration, or if we had something brand new, a replacement item to talk about. But to date, we have not received anything from CDOT like, oh, well, you voted no on this, here's something new. So at this point, there is nothing on the agenda. But if one is either initiated as a new product to talk about or a rehash of the old product, those are the two ways, in my knowledge, that it would be initiated.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to action items. Fiscal year 26 through 27 UPWP. Danelle.
Yes, thank you. The UPWP, as you know, is a federally required document, kind of detailing our transportation group's planning work to be paid with our consolidated planning funding that comes from FHWA and FTA. It went out for public comment. The public comment period ended just this past Sunday. There were no comments received from the public. We did have a discussion and some comments received from FHWA. So we did make 2 small changes specifically to address those comments. One is simply to say that the funding may change with respect to actual revenue versus projections, and then that we may use state planning and research funding and or toll credits if they become available to us as the MPO. We also included some specific dollar amounts related to complete streets. That's an IIJA requirement that we spend 2.5% of our FHWA planning funds toward the complete streets effort. So we made sure that those specific dollar amounts were in the UPWP. Other than that, happy to answer any questions, but we are looking today for a recommendation to the board to approve that document.
Any questions in the room or online?
Then I'll have one, Gail Servant. And I believe you said in your presentation that you received 0 comments during the comment period. Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to verify that. Thank you.
It kind of hurt my feelings, but I guess I'm used to it.
But no news is good news.
All right, with that, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair, Gail Servant, I recommend that the Board of Directors adopt the fiscal year 26-27 Unified Plan Work Program as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Abba Faveri from Fountain. I second.
Thank you, Alba. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good job, Donnell. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
TIP program scheduling funding process. Josh.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your time today. I have 2 attachments with this item. The first is a memo outlining the draft schedule for developing the fiscal year 2027 and 2031 TIP. The second is a summary table comparing current programmed amounts with the most recent forecasted allocations from CDOT that Donnell will touch on. This new TIP cycle will include a call for projects for fiscal year 2030 and fiscal year 2031. And we are requesting your guidance today on this draft schedule that's proposed to you. August, we request approval of the public involvement plan and TIP policies and procedures. The call for projects is expected to open in late August or early September. We'll also hold a workshop for potential applications during that time to walk through application requirements and answer any questions jurisdictions might have. September, the deadline for draft applications, which will be 6 weeks from the application opening date. This date is still to be determined. In October, we have our final application deadline, which will be 8 weeks from the application opening date. This will be followed by a project selection workshop where the submitted projects will then be reviewed. Then we will draft a TIP with recommended projects to bring forward for discussion with TAC and CAC. And then in November and December, the draft TIP will be presented to the Board of Directors, released for public review, and the comment period is estimated to run from December 12th to January 11th, depending on which dates we get for the applications. In February, we will then bring the TIP back to TAC and CAC, along with public comments that are integrated into the document, and we'll ask for adoption recommendations. And then in March, a TIP draft public hearing and TIP final adoption by Board of Directors will be held. And the new TIP for fiscal year 2027 and 2031 will go into effect on July 1st, 2026. We're asking TAC today to review and approve this draft schedule and provide any suggestions or changes or any feedback you may have. Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Online? Okay, I will give you the same spiel I give every year when we do these TIP application processes. It's always best for me to have as much time as I can, especially between the draft due and then the finals, because I have to take them to our Board of County Commissioners. It often takes 3 weeks to get on that calendar and then for me to get them to you. So while you are selecting dates, if you could keep that in mind, I would very much appreciate it.
Yes, and if I may, we can add on there too, once you receive them, we want to make sure we have plenty of time where the full applications can be circulated with like the pre-scoring, so we can have a workshop a minimum of a week in advance of the TAC meeting if possible, so we can arm wrestle in advance if necessary. Thank you.
Good comment. Others, please?
This is Allison. I don't remember where we landed last time with CDOT having formal review of them, if it was before or after, but if we can include that in the timeline as well.
Is that the draft applications due to CDOT?
Generally, yes, we want to make sure that everything is reviewed by CDOT appropriately, and our staff as well, but definitely with CDOT so that they can provide comments.
And Lachelle's on the call, so I don't see her turning on her mic. So I think we're good.
Well, and I will say that Lachelle does an amazing job of turning those around very quickly for us. So,
Yeah.
Lachelle, we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you too.
Well, as I'm looking at the schedule too, and you talk about the application period opening, normally don't we have that schedule and I have an understanding what the funding options are going to be per year? And I do think there were some options here in the memo now that I say that. But do we have more detail? Because don't we need to make a recommendation on that as well?
Yes. So actually, that's kind of the second portion of this item today that I can talk about a little bit. So every year, CDOT reconciles the actual revenue that was received versus the projections of funding that were programmed. This year, there has been less revenue than was previously allocated. CDOT has also updated some forecasts that are lower than previous forecasts. So there is a table in the meeting materials that kind of show what we had programmed for 26, 27, 28, and 29 compared with those revised forecasts from CDOT. So we are actually going to need to either remove some projects, remove some funding, or push some funding out for both carbon reduction program and surface transportation block grant or STP Metro. The TAP funding, actually, we already have a slight change to that because there was a project that was returned to us from Woodland Park that's not reflected in that table. So we actually have about 264,000 more in 2026 than is reflected there. But that is the draft numbers that we're looking at now. We need to confirm with CDOT Region 2 that we can move forward with these numbers, but we wanted to bring the draft as quickly as possible to bring to the TAC as quickly as possible. And as part of this, we wanted to ask the TAC, staff kind of feels like it would be easiest to roll the reconciliation of these funding numbers into the call for projects and do it all at once. If you would prefer to do it as separate processes and do the reconciliation and then do the awards for 30 and 31, we can do that. It's really up to you all and how you'd like us to run that process.
I would say from City to Colorado Springs, we prefer to have it as one process because I think it's really just one bucket of money. We're going to have to replenish the areas where we may be short, and then we can see what else is available to consider for project funding.
Yeah, and that is our recommendation, especially since right now they're looking at surface transportation reauthorization. Now, that might not be done by the time we get to this, but I do remember when they did the IIJA, everyone was like, oh, this is going to take forever. This is going to take forever. And the next day was like, oh, the bill's done. We can't make any changes. And I was like, wait, we wanted to talk about the whole fact that the Western United States is getting the short end of the stick. Nope, it's too late. We've got a deal. We can't move. So if that happens again, if they have everything sort of moving forward, we might not have to cut as much if we wait for that number if it happens to be available. So as staff, we definitely agree it's not worth the, to steal a Brandy Williams term, it's not worth the brain damage to reconcile it now and then go through a TIP process and possibly give money back that we took just a little while before. So again, hopefully the rest of the TAC agrees with Colorado Springs and we can just do it as one process.
So let me start with the last question first. Does anybody have objections with doing it all at once? Okay, that sounds pretty good. Got a head nod there. On the timing, is there a requirement for us to be done by July 1st?
I would say we do our tips on a 2-year cycle per the state and to keep in line with the state. However, I will say that not all of the MPOs are on the same cycle that we are, and I don't think there is any federal or state requirement that we are done by July 1st.
If I could make a slight adjustment to that. So from the Fed's point of view, your tip is good until your next tip comes into play. However, if you're trying to touch things that have even fallen off or come in, it gets messy. So it's best to have your tip done by the beginning of the federal fiscal year, which is October 1st. Now, the state of Colorado a while back, and again, this is where I'm making a slight adjustment to what Danelle said, said, hey, we want all of the state of Colorado, we want all of you MPOs to be on the same timeline, and we'd like it to be done by July 1st. So technically, there's that state requirement. That's why we say July 1st. And Kathleen Collins, feel free to jump in if I've gotten this wrong. But that being said, while that is the requirement, I don't believe that CDOT has the resources to go in and say, hey, you didn't follow what we asked. We have a real problem. So it's a rule, but not a rule that's enforced. All that being said, if we can do it by July 1st, I think from a cash flow sort of point of view, it's in the jurisdiction's best interest, but it's certainly not something that the spigot of funding will turn off if we don't make. And Kathleen, feel free to hop in. I see your hand up to correct me.
Well, what I understand is the STIP includes all the tips, so it would, and the STIP is updated every year, and it is effective every July 1. So it would be to the benefit of Pikes Peak to have their most recent tip information in the STIP. So I think that's a harder policy than what was conveyed, but I probably need to double check that with Jamie, because I don't know if anyone there is on the call from our federal partners, but I'm pretty sure they want the most recent information that's adopted and everything in the tip to go into the STIP. So that's just my point of view, but I can double check that. Thanks.
And again, Kathleen, we're still aiming for that July 1st. I think the question was, what if? So you don't need to spend too many bells and whistles off with Jamie Collins.
I think schedule's a little tight. But I will do my best to try and work with all of my staff people.
Oh, wait, you don't have any staff. Oh.
Yeah, none, and try and get it done for you. I'm a little worried about it because we're not going to be able to really start that call for projects until after the August TAC meeting, which is literally way late August,
Right.
and then having them do hopefully as late as possible in October would be best.
And I think we're willing to be as flexible as possible. So if that means having an additional meeting that sort of works for your schedule, we can just say, hey, you know, if looking at the schedule, like, well, we've got too much time here, but not enough time here, and that happened to fall just because of where the meetings fell. If we need to make sure that we ask everybody, as long as we have a quorum, to have a special meeting, we'll do that to accommodate you. So whatever we can do, and even to the point of if there's some stuff that you want us to sort of help you with, again, if, you know, the older projects, you know, we don't have to say, here, you fill this out information that you've already given to us. We'll try to pre-fill some of the applications if that would be helpful. Just let us know.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Any other thoughts or questions, comments, Gail?
I have a question. I know we've had some questions about the application process recently by MMOF.
Yes.
Do we need to do a review of the application process in advance of this official call beforehand? And if so, would you like to see that done as a workshop or through email circulation prior to our next TAC meeting?
That was actually one of the questions I have to ask the TAC is we would be happy to send out the application to everyone, hold a workshop if you'd like to kind of go over. We do anticipate having a workshop to talk about the application requirements, but if we would like to have one even before the call of projects goes out to make sure that the application meets your needs as well as ours, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Yeah. I think my suggestion would be if you as staff want to take a look at what we've used previously,
Mhm.
take a look at our bylaws just to make sure there hasn't been little tweaks that we should be incorporated. And if you're comfortable, let's send it out to this body as a whole and give them like a week to review it. If they want a workshop for discussion, great. If not, we'll just plan on using that and approving it at the next TAC meeting. If that seems amenable to everyone.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
All right, great, thanks.
Related to that comment, a couple of things that would be helpful for us in preparing that application. In the past, the TAC has chosen to prioritize cost overruns. Is that still the priority of the TAC at this point?
I think that's actually in our bylaws, as I recall, so I would say yes.
I would say yes too.
Yes, it is in the bylaws. I think our point is, we don't know how many projects are out there that need cost overruns and how many are not. So we need to get from you, yes, we have a ton of projects that are short. Let's do cost overruns first. And then the other ways, because I think there's been a desire to know that information up front, because nobody wants to generate a new project
If there's no money for
if there's
the
no
cost
money for
overrun.
it. So that's what we meant by that is, let us know if there's no money. We're not going to waste your time by saying, hey, we're taking new applications. If there's no money, which again, only you can tell us, we'll let everybody know up front so they know not to fill out a new application because you're just wasting your time. Spinning your wheels,
Yes.
spitting in the wind. Oh, I was.
Do you have a sense of when you can send that draft application out?
Probably in the next couple weeks. Yeah.
Um,
We can look
I'm
at it
just
next
thinking-
week. And
We might want to pose that question at that time and remind us all, and for those of us who are not here today, to put that in an email so we start looking at it.
absolutely.
And you
Along,
could even do that before you send out the draft application.
yes, along with the financials, because again, it will kind of depend on whether you all think there is enough money to accept new applications or whether you just like to focus on the overruns.
Okay.
Another thing to think about, go ahead, Gail, I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to ask a question about the overruns, just to make sure we're all thinking the same thing.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at the spreadsheet that's provided on page 50 of the packet. Thank you. Jared's so good, by the way. Thank you, Jared. He keeps us straight all the time.
Oh, I thought we were doing the slow clap. Never mind.
So we're already seeing what we programmed in the previous tips, so 26 through 29. The forecast of the programmed is higher than what is now forecasted. So it's under, like, for example, CRP, it's almost $2 million that we're going to have to reprogram. So if you go and look at, in this case, at the 2030 and 2031, go ahead.
Thanks for letting me interrupt. I wanted to ask that question, actually. You just touched upon this. For my own education, I'm probably the slowest person in the room. Can staff clarify that bottom row, the FY 26 to 31, those totals across the bottom?
Yes, that's my fault. I apologize. That is the so in CRP and in the STP, the STBG funding, we are over programmed in 26, 27, 28, 29. Again, that TAP number in 26 is off, so we're not over programmed there. The total down there is those over programmed amounts plus the amounts in 30 and 31. So basically, if we did the call for projects all together, that would be the amount that is available for funding. It is confusing. That's completely my fault. Josh asked me the same question.
All right. I know this is dangerous doing math in public, but I feel like the negatives are being added to the positives and that these numbers aren't right.
That is possible.
Anyway,
So when you send that email to
Well,
tell us to
I will
look at
double
cost
check.
overruns, send out an updated spreadsheet for us.
I will.
and I know you just need to send us PDFs of what you're thinking it is, but it is helpful for us, particularly when we're looking at the program and evaluation, if we could have an Excel spreadsheet to be able to look at that as well. So,
Right.
Absolutely.
thank you.
Just,
And again, math in public is dangerous.
well, again, not doing math, but just, round numbers looks like the carbon reduction program is is about like 350. The STP as a negative sort of adjustment that has to happen over 4 years. STP, again, just doing the math in my head, looks like that's $1,400,000 that has to be done. So over the course, it's $1,400,000 over the course of 4 years. But again, that is assuming that one, CDOT doesn't change the estimates again by the time we meet and do stuff, and two, that there isn't some sort of federal action that changes something that we have to do, either a changing of the obligation rate. Right now, the obligation rate usually runs around 90%. I have lived long enough that I have actually seen an obligation rate above 100, so that you could actually go back and claim previous year funds that you hadn't spent. I only saw it once, and I'm already 60, so don't hold your breath for that. But all I'm saying is we're going to have to wait and see what happens with the numbers through all of those different things. The other thing that I want to mention is I don't know how carbon reduction is worded, but if it is worded that says Congress shall establish a carbon reduction fund, that is a takedown from Surface Transportation Grant. If for some reason the administration doesn't like the words carbon reduction put together and they say we're going to get rid of that program, it might not necessarily go away where we get rid of the money. It just, that money might still be in the bank, but it will have a different name. So that's the other thing that we just have to sort of wait and see what happens with everything. And don't get me started on MMOF. That's a whole other thing, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, we don't have any information yet on MMOF, so.
Okay. Do we really want to give you a recommendation on this, given all our comments, or?
I think it's mostly just guidance from everybody
And
that
not
we're looking
technically a
for
motion
today.
with an action item. Okay. I'm sorry, Gail.
Well, I was going to say, they've written it kind of open-ended for an approval of a schedule and then to provide guidance. And so I was actually ready to make a motion.
You would like a motion?
It's totally up to you guys, right? We try to facilitate a process by which if you come in and you're like, I'm tired of John stupid dad jokes and I want action, you can give us direction. But if you do have a sort of a comfort level with staff, you can just say, you have our direction, please move forward. So again, we never want to assume you're comfortable with us. We try to write these in such a way that, again, you can take the action you deem necessary.
I think. So I'm willing to make a motion that's going to have as much, I guess, leeway in there as possible, but I would recommend that we review and approve recommend that we approve the fiscal year 2027-2031 schedule. And for our additional guidance on the TIP process, we are asking that we have enough time to review applications and submittal and routine and obtain board approval, that we have the opportunity to review the application in advance of the official call, that we give you direction that we want to approach the allocation of funding through a combination and reconciliation, and then give us the ability to determine whether we're just going to be funding cost overruns, and then make a determination if we have funding available for new projects.
And trying to extend the time frame between call and.
Yes, well, that was the first thing I think.
Oh, that was okay.
Schedule. Yeah.
That was a long motion. I had trouble following it. With Gail's long motion that covered everything under the sun, do I have a second?
This is Lan. I second, as long as I don't have to repeat that.
Deal. Thank goodness we have a transcription. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you have direction and approval.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we are on to John Henry and Drive Smart. Welcome.
Yeah, here we go right there. Thank you. Again, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Transportation Advisory Committee and PPACG staff for the opportunity to come before you this afternoon to give you a briefing on Drive Smart Colorado. With that, next slide, please, Jared. Drive Smart Colorado was founded in 1989. Those of you who have some years invested in the community may remember, this does go back, that a young boy lost his life in a conflict in an intersection with a beer truck. Little boy had a walk signal. Beer truck had a green light. Little boys lose. Colorado Springs City Council was aghast at that. It happened to coincide at a point in time at which the incidence of drunken driving in Colorado Springs was significant. The use of motorcycle helmets was exceptionally low. Substance-involved crashes were up well into the 60% range. And City Council said something must be done. And those of you who have been around for a while may remember the three Marys who were on City Council. And the three Marys stood up and said, let's put together a transportation group of citizens to try to come in and talk to us about what we can possibly do to improve traffic safety in the city of Colorado Springs. I had done a good amount of work in conjunction with the city as a volunteer, helping fund the original Colorado Springs Senior Center over in Hancock, as well as having founded the Colorado Springs Police Department's Medal of Valor Luncheon. And I was reasonably known to some of those circles, and they asked if I would be willing to come in and put some time into the project. And the answer was yes, which brings us here today. Yes, all those years later, a shocking lack of imagination on my part or something to do with dedication to a cause. You could play that either way that you like, right? Suffice it to say that we have existed because of significant partnerships in the community in traffic safety, injury prevention, government circles, and the like. As you can see, we're 501c3 articles of incorporation filed 1992. The C3 came about 1994. Original operational support was courtesy of USAA. Drive Smart was a concept they had founded in San Antonio, the home office of USAA, and had put it in place in other major cities or cities where USAA had a major employment presence. That included Tampa Bay, Norfolk, Virginia, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Colorado Springs. Of all of those Drive Smart organizations, this is the only one that continues to stand. It is also the only one that I put under its own freestanding 501c3 so that it had an opportunity to exist as a nonprofit into the future rather than being a corporate outreach program. Two very distinctly different perspectives there, and we stand today because of that. CSPD also provided significant support for Drive Smart Housing, the then executive director in Colorado Springs Police Department headquarters, and providing a certain level of support logistically for the organization. We came across COVID, and as many nonprofits experienced at that point in time, we were having a very, very difficult time meeting our obligations to Colorado Department of Transportation and other funders to get in front of groups and do education about traffic safety. The board had made a decision that they were going to close, based on my recommendation, close the organization. When PPACG came to the table, we had shared a number of projects with the Council of Governments over the years, and they felt we do not want to see this go away. Let's reopen discussions and let's see what we can do to keep the organization moving and make it sustain. And that is what has us standing in front of you today. And I have significant thanks to John Leo Santos and Andy Gunning, PPACG, for that support. It was simply tremendous. Drive Smart is governed by a board of directors. We've added a couple of names very recently. Of course, Andy Gunning as director of PPACG, Colorado Springs Chief of Police Adrian Vasquez, El Paso County Sheriff Joe Roybal, Colorado State Patrol District 2 Captain Scott Hopfen, Teller County Commissioner Eric Stone, Woodland Park Mayor Kelly Case, as well as Cripple Creek Mayor Annie Durham. They are currently on the board of directors. The board is largely advisory in nature, some limited governance, but by far the biggest piece of Drive Smart is accomplished within the coalition. And let's take that to the next slide to if we could, please. These are the activity areas, key activity areas. This is very, very high level. We have quite a number of programs involving each of these areas as we go. Substance-free driving, needless to say, has continued to be a backbone of most every competent and well-organized traffic safety education organization around the country. Remains absolutely critical in nature, even more so in Colorado with the advent of marijuana's passing and the increased sales of marijuana around the state. So at this point in time, clearly that's a topic that will remain with us, I suspect, for a very, very long time. In the area of youthful drivers, we are initiating some new approaches in examining the resource-based difference between El Paso County, rural areas of El Paso County, Teller County, and Park County. We were able to determine that the availability of competent drivers training for youth was very limited in those areas. In the rural areas in El Paso County, somewhat limited, especially in parts of the more rural parts of Teller County, and very, very limited in Park County. So we've embarked on a program in concert with a company out of Denver called Drive Safe that conducts youth education and youth drivers training around the state. We put together a partnership with them, and we're examining bringing them into initially Teller County as a test case to see if we can improve the availability and the quality of drivers training for youthful drivers in those rural areas. We think that's a key piece to be focusing on. Occupant protection, we do provide, thanks to our safety champion, Tricia Aquinta, who is absolutely backbone to most of these activities. Trish is out in the community conducting helmets, child safety seat checks, providing helmets, checking helmets on youngsters, making sure they're being properly worn, those kinds of things. Tricia is today at the El Paso County Fair and spending time there this week, braving the heat and the rain, and I give her significant credit for that. And she gets funnel cake. It's unfair. And she didn't bring any, could have. I've touched for a moment on rural outreach. That is a broadening of focus for Drive Smart. Drive Smart was primarily, for all of the years prior to PPACG's engagement, primarily involved in El Paso and Teller counties. We held some contracts from CDOT to do a certain level of work in some of the other counties. Most memorably, we're in some of the rural counties, and if you've ever gone into Lincoln County and tried to convince the sheriff there to start enforcing safety belt rules, you know what a challenge that can be. And the sheriff was honest enough to say to us, I have to run for re-election. You do know that, right? And so that was an interesting piece of business for us. But today, the rural outreach is even more in place due to the partnership with PPACG and PPACG's focus on the three-county area. And so there are a number of rural outreach programs we're working on, not the least of which was the one I just talked about, involving youthful drivers. Military members, that one has continued to be an area in which we have to put focus virtually all the time. Part of the challenge that we're facing with the military institutions, the bases and the facilities in town, is the rapid turnover of staff and the proclivity not to pass forward the portfolio to whomever steps in and picks up the job when someone moves on. We find ourselves in a position of having to essentially recreate in whole cloth the entire relationship when all of that changes. We've had some limited results at Carson with the new garrison commander. Den New, he's been around, 18 months. And that's improving. And we are seeing much better involvement and engagement these days from Space Force, from Peterson and Schriever. And I'm happy to see that because, of course, that represents a very key constituency for traffic safety in Colorado Springs. Given the overrepresentation, certainly in Carson's case, to an extent, the Air Force bases, the overrepresentation of young men in that group and their interest in fast motorcycles and their sometimes rejection of the idea of wearing a helmet. So that continues to be an area in which we have to focus. We recognize that. We also are participants in the Safety Action Plan and have found that to be really worthwhile engagement, investment of time. The ideas that we vetted at a meeting last week, there were a number of really solid ideas. Some reach for the clouds ideas, as always. You have to have those. You have to swing for the fences sometimes. But I think there's some wonderful work going on there, and we're very, very pleased to be at the table and be able to participate in that. That's important work. With that, next slide, please, Jared. I want to spend some time with you this morning. I'm not going to go through, this afternoon, I'm not going to go through all of these names because you can get a quick read on it. The next two slides are the members of the Colorado Springs, well, the Dry Smart Colorado Coalition that meets here in Colorado Springs. We meet here at PPACG in this room. We have representation from around the state. This is where the work gets done, in this coalition, in these meetings. And go to the next slide, please, Jared, if you would. You get a sense as to the depth of the programming that's involved, the depth of the people involved, and what they bring to the table. I cannot begin to pass along. It's difficult without having you attend a meeting, and I really want to encourage members of this group to consider doing that at some point. The energy with this group, the ideas that flow, the interaction of the group, and the discussions about what do we do about a given problem, what resources do we have collectively, what resources individually does an organization have, and how do we combine those? And I have to say that it is simply really a labor of love for most of these people, and the energy in the room is significant. Yes, Madam Chair.
Sorry. When are those meetings?
Coming up. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be meeting, and I'll just jump ahead for that information for you. We meet on the second Tuesday of each month at 9:30 a.m. here in this room. There is obviously, given the nature of what we have for all of the people who attend from Denver area and other parts of the state. We've got some folks from rural counties in southwest Colorado and some in southern Colorado that are attending as well in order to learn what we're doing, try and carry it back to their own organizations. But thank you for that. Yes. The meetings include something that John Leo Santos and I instituted we call Found on the Road. And I encourage members of the coalition to send me articles of interest, memes, quips, silly things that might relate to traffic safety. And we lead with that because it's always been my perspective that things of real worth start with a smile, and accomplishments of real worth start with a smile. So we try to get a grin out of the group and have some fun to kick off the meeting. Then what follows is an update from our key law enforcement and injury prevention partners. That could be the hospitals. It could be, certainly is the law enforcement entities represented, State Patrol, El Paso County Sheriff, Colorado Springs Police Department. And as we continue to grow and expand, we'll have other members of other law enforcement agencies involved in that as well, and step forth and brief key traffic safety and injury prevention activities that their agencies are involved in. That is a piece of the meeting every month. And then we have a request for information support where we have organizations that have plans or projects or programs that they could use a hand with, could use some resource sharing or people sharing in some cases. They bring their programs forward and we discuss those. And as a group, we determine who can provide what kind of support and when. And then there's always a deeper look into an organization or organization or program or project that is part of the coalition. And in that meeting, there's always a deep dive into one of those programs or one of those projects as part of the meeting. Again, the overall strategies and tactics for addressing traffic safety and related injury prevention, those are the overarching topics of discussion in that coalition meeting. And there's wonderful energy in the room. They all walk away with ideas and concepts and often things that we have on the calendar in order to provide support and assistance. The meeting is followed at 10:45 a.m. by the Colorado Springs Safe Kids Coalition, which of course is a marvelous organization involved in a very, very broad sweep of injury prevention, not just in Colorado Springs, but around the country. I have tremendous respect for Safe Kids. We're active participants in the Safe Kids concept and support it totally. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have. I do want to refer you to the website. It's very simple. It's drivesmartcolorado.com. It is a .com. And do feel free to look up the website. I think you'll see some wonderful and interesting pieces in there. Jared Werner has done simply yeoman's wonderful work at trying to bring that forward. It was needing a touch after COVID came about, and we were considering taking the organization dark. The website let fallow for a bit, and Jared has stepped in and absolutely turned the corner on it. We think it's a wonderful piece of work. Please do take a look. Questions? All right. Thank you for the opportunity.
I want to thank you for coming. It was me who prompted you to come. We have a very large safety effort in El Paso County.
Yes.
We have the sheriff's department on our team. We also have Scott from the state patrol on our team.
You bet.
And we're right now focusing on stop controlled intersections and looking at how we can do some simple things to improve those. So thank you for your work. Thank you for sharing it with us. And I hope to find time in my schedule to come to one of your coalition meetings.
Thank you. I would love to see any and all of you there again, second Tuesday, 9:30 in this room. Thanks.
Thank you.
There is a virtual option for those of you who live so far east, you're kind of in Kansas. So there is a virtual option that you can participate in.
Sorry, turn my mic back on. All right, our next action or our next information item is with Jason on the safety action plan, following up on our safety discussions.
All right, good afternoon. Keeping it rolling on safety. So we first introduced this project to the TAC back in April this year. So I'm just going to do a little 60-second refresher just to get us back in context. So just a few bullets here, and then I'll turn it over to our consultants to give a little presentation. So Safety Action Plan is a comprehensive data-driven traffic safety plan funded by the federal Safe Streets for All program, which does have some special requirements that we'll get into later. The project's been in progress since early this year, led by our FHU consultant team. Colorado Springs and City of Fountain are both doing their own plans under this same program, and we are coordinating with them. City of Woodland Park and PPACG have partnered to bring this level of planning to the rest of the Tri-County region. So just sort of filling out the region. Aside from the benefit of having a rigorous traffic safety plan, the other main benefit of this plan is that it creates eligibility for implementation funds for projects that are listed in the plan once it's approved. So there's potentially construction dollars at the end of this project. That's about $1 billion nationally for the 2026 notice of funding. To date, the team has performed a draft analysis, pretty in-depth traffic safety analysis based on our crash data, and we've met with many of our member jurisdictions. We do want to meet with everybody, so if we haven't met individually with your jurisdiction yet, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we'll probably be reaching out to you soon enough to talk and make sure we understand the needs and opportunities traffic safety-wise in your jurisdiction. We do need to wrap up by early next year to have enough time for member governments to prepare their applications for implementation grants. And that deadline would be in June. That means, as far as we can tell, getting our final board approval no later than April. So make sure everybody has time for those applications. The project was presented to the PPACG board last month. We did get some good input. There is some dissonance over the concept of Vision Zero. While Vision Zero is required to be a kind of guiding philosophy of this plan under this federal program, we are not required to have it in a goal statement or to make it a target reduction, which the board indicated it would consider to be unrealistic and impractical for various reasons. But we should be okay there because we can work with that. And with that, I'll turn it over to our consultant team.
Thank you, Technical Advisory Committee. My name is Gaurav Vasisht.
You're coming through a little quiet.
Is this better, Jason?
Better, but still kind of quiet.
Let me get really close to my microphone. How's that?
Maybe good enough. Still kind of quiet.
Okay. How about now?
I think that'll probably be good enough if you can speak up just a little bit.
Definitely. Well, I was just saying thank you to the Transportation Advisory Committee. I am Gaurav Vasisht from Felsberg, Holt and Olevik. I am managing the project on the consultant side. Next slide, please. Today, just a quick refresher on the safety action plan. We'll touch upon the commitment that Jason just mentioned. We'll touch upon the outreach engagement, a little bit of presentation on some of the crash analysis that we've done, and then the schedule and next steps. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview. I won't go through this. This is based off of the grant requirements. This is from the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. The guiding principles is the safe system approach. Basically, it's data-driven, community informed, and a holistic approach. The end goal, of course, being that what is the benefit to the local communities? It's about being eligible for future implementation grants to fund safety improvement projects. They can be construction projects, they can be planning and demonstration projects. So there's a whole range of those kind of projects. Next slide, please. We presented this once before, but just wanted to touch upon this. To aid in our safety analysis, we divided the Tri-County area into 3 sub-areas based on topology. So we have the mountainous area, we have the suburban urban area, and then we have the flat rural area to the east. Next slide, please. So these are the requirements of the safety action plan to be eligible for implementation grants next year. So that's the final year of the SS4A program. There's $1 billion in the program for implementing safety projects throughout the country. There's going to be an emphasis on rural areas for sure. And these are the 7 elements that need to be covered. The way we see, and we've talked about this, the tax role is obviously to recommend for formal adoption of the plan, but what we're also looking for is input from the TAC in terms of whether we're doing the right job, whether we're in the right direction as we start to develop safety countermeasures, safety projects. Next slide, please. Just touching upon some commitments in the area. So these are some of the commitments that have been around. There's a lot more now since, next slide, please. There's some examples of the commitments. So we have some Fort Collins, Glenwood Springs, Centennial. Mesa County is along the lines of what Jason was mentioning. This was something that the board seemed to like more so than some of the others. This is talking about a certain reduction in fatalities and serious injuries and not Vision Zero necessarily. Next slide, please. The outreach and engagement is a big part of this process, and we've been, we've been in front of this committee once before. We've been talking to other coalitions and agencies in the area, in the project area. And as of July, after this meeting, we have one more CAC meeting that's planned. Next slide, please. Getting into the crash analysis. So this is I just wanted to give a sort of a really brief overview. We submitted a couple of memos that have a lot more detail about this information, but I thought it would be interesting to see some general trends in this presentation. We're looking at crashes with and without I-25. So I-25 will not be part of the SS4A safety action plan. We will be focusing more on the streets and local streets, collectors, arterials. But as you can see, there was a dip in 2020 for obvious reasons, the lockdown and such. But otherwise, it seems the crash trends have been sort of stable with a slight rise in 2023. Next slide, please. This is a representation just showing you the geolocated crashes in the project area. As you can see, they follow the major roadways pretty consistently. The suburban urban area has the most density of crashes. Just as a reminder, Colorado Springs and Fountain are also doing their own safety action plans. So we have been coordinating with them as well, but they are grayed out in this figure. Next slide, please. Looking at KSI, which is killed and seriously injured crashes. Killed and seriously injured crashes are the main focus of the SS4A program. The idea being, how can we break the curve? How can we have a lofty goal of safety in terms of making sure that the roads are safe for everybody who uses them? So looking at the KSI crashes, again, a very similar trend to the total crashes, but the 2023 trend is similar to what you see in 2021. And, I'd say largely is not a significant increase, but again, one too many crashes that involve fatalities and seriously injured crashes. Next slide. Focusing just on the KSIs now, as you can see, the fatalities are holding steady. We are still seeing significant number of fatal crashes, but they have not been increasing. However, the seriously injured crashes it seems to have a slight upward trend. Just, previously the map showed all the crashes, which means fatal injuries and property damage only crashes. But what you see here is just the KSI crashes, again, following very similar patterns of where these are occurring, except in the suburban urban areas where we see slightly different picture. Next slide. Now, talking about, we'll just go through some of the crash history by sub area. So as you can see, the suburban urban area has the highest number of crashes, 70% in total, and nearly 70 or 71% in terms of injury and fatal crashes. The mountainous areas are next, followed by the rural. A lot of this has to do with the number of the miles of roadway, the number of intersections, the sheer volume of traffic, which means exposure and possibility and higher probability of crashes. Next slide, please. Touching upon some of the crash types, the most common crash types, what you see in the suburban urban area is what one might expect. So it's rear end is the highest, but fixed object and broadside crashes are of concern. The rural and mountainous areas, we see a lot more severe trends related to rollover crashes, as well as fixed object, but in the mountainous areas, we're also seeing head-on crashes that are of concern. Next slide. Just wanted to share the fixed object crashes, total crashes. Again, this is very typical of what we see in mountainous areas, but we're seeing a lot of them in the suburban urban areas as well. So that will be something that we will be looking into further, along with some of the other crashes that we will identify for further investigation as our focus areas. So talking about crash locations, so as we see in suburban urban areas, most of the crashes are occurring at, well, I mean, I think it's half and half pretty much, that 50% at non-intersection, 51% at non-intersections, 41 at intersections and other locations like alleys and such. The severe crashes, however, in the suburban areas mostly are occurring at intersections. So these are hotspots for severe crashes. In the rural and mountainous areas, however, we're seeing most of the crashes happening on segments. So, for example, in mountainous areas, we're seeing significant curves impacting crashes and the geometry of roadway being of concern or something that needs to be investigated. Next slide, please. For our analysis, next steps would be the first step is to organize our approach to analyzing the crashes so that we can then come up with a structured approach to develop safety countermeasures and projects that can be implemented through future grants. So the focus areas will be categorized, so we'll prioritize locations. We would like to develop interventions for all kinds of crashes. However, so to make sure that we have a focused effort that is most beneficial, we'll identify focus areas where we want to target the safety interventions. Part of this requires the development of what's known as the high injury network, which means identifying the roadways that have the highest crash occurrences. So we are in the process of developing this high injury network right now. It's got two parts of it. There'll be a high injury network related to high injury intersections, followed by high injury segments. So a combination of the two will result in the combined high injury network. And this will help us develop projects, understand where the issues are. And this is something that we would share with the TAC once we've developed it and would look for your input. The second piece that you see there is another requirement of the SS4A program, a systemic safety analysis resulting in a high risk network. Systemic safety analysis is about identifying causal factors associated with crashes. And then once you identify causal factors, for example, might be missing shoulders or steep side slopes or low visibility, those kind of factors, and we identify locations where we see these risk factors and put them on a risk network, even if they don't have crashes. So this is a proactive approach of identifying areas that require improvements or safety interventions without waiting for a crash to occur. So that is another effort that is ongoing as we speak. This will all result in the last requirement of the SS4A program, because the goal of the SS4A program is to make a significant practical difference in safety and make sure that there is an actual reduction in KSI crashes. So we need to, as part of this project, identify safety projects. It could be locations that require safety projects, and we would work with the agencies to make sure that those projects make sense. And then a prioritization of those projects in terms of the highest, the projects that are the most needed for safety improvements, and basically develop a list of projects in coordination with all the agencies. So the prioritization itself will be logical, and safety will be the primary piece. For example, locations with the most number of crashes, the most frequency of crashes. It will also involve stakeholder input as well as community input. So we'll use a combination of those kind of factors to develop a prioritization of projects. One thing I did want to mention is the prioritization is not how agencies will be required to go after funding. You can choose different projects from, depending on availability of funds, how much a project costs, the local needs. But the idea is to develop a list of prioritized projects for all agencies to have for future funding and future identification of safety interventions that as funding becomes available. So in our project next steps, this is our schedule. The idea being that we want to have an adopted safety action plan by May of 2026, so that agencies are eligible to apply for the next NOFO in 2026 for implementation, SS4A implementation grants. But again, that means adoption of the plan itself, along with a prioritized list of projects. This is an important slide. As part of the community input, we have a live social pinpoint website going with the ability for stakeholders and community members to go in and drop a pin with their comment, with their concerns of safety based on location, which would be of great importance to the project. So I would request that we advertise or share this link, or let the people in the communities know that this is live and that we are seeking input from everyone. I just want to mention that we are also working with the agencies and understanding from previous engagement efforts what the safety concerns are. So we want to use this in concert with some of the previous efforts that are already in place. I think that might be my last slide. So any questions?
Okay, I have one for you. Can you send out that link in some sort of social media package? I'm so not the technical girl on this stuff, but something that we can give to our PIOs and they can put on Facebook and Instagram and all that fun stuff.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful. We will make sure to send that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you for the presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Transit updates.
Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Gagnon, Transit Planner here at PPACG, and I will be giving the transit updates. I would like to talk about the Joint Service Executive Oversight Committee that was recently created. So under the Senate Bill 24-184 that passed last May, or 2 Mays ago, it required an intergovernmental agreement on how to implement the Front Range Passenger Rail, or to create an oversight committee. This oversight committee is the executive from RTD, Front Range Passenger Rail District, the CTIO office, CTE, CDOT, and then additionally the governor. This oversight committee will approve the project or the plan for the joint service project, which is the passenger rail from Denver to Fort Collins, and then eventually connecting the corridor all the way through Colorado Springs to Pueblo. And then additionally to be the negotiator for the Burlington North Santa Fe line, which is the freight line, because the passenger rail will be operating on the freight line. This was recently approved back in June. And then next they will, by January of 26, they will have an agreement with BNSF. And then by winter of 26, they will adopt a financial plan. Additionally, by summer 2026, they will have and just any other infrastructure investments. And then by January of 2029, we'll start the service from Denver to Fort Collins. So that is the latest and greatest news in transit. Any questions or comments?
Any other discussion on transit?
I think, Lisa, it would be great if you could kind of give an overview on the current format of meetings with the PPACG transit advisors.
Yeah, so let's see, before Councilmember Avila left office, she was the designated transit representative, and we talked to her about taking the existing quarterly meetings and doing them more often, especially since we have more transit money at the state and federal level, and we have more transit sort of projects going on with Front Range Passenger Rail, with the oil and gas money and the rental car, the TCS study, plus we had the other things going on. So I think in February we started, and we've had about 3 of those transit working group meetings. We have since made the decision that, again, we don't want to oversaturate, so we're moving back to that quarterly meeting. And then that is, again, at the current transit representative's discretion. So Brandy Williams, City of Colorado Springs, has that designation. So if she tells us to do more or less, that's what we'll do. And at this point, those transit meetings are moving to quarterly. Did answer your question? Did I hit everything you wanted me to touch on?
Yeah, no, thanks for just that update for everybody. And then I think it would just be great as of those meetings occur that when you do the reports out for the transit update, that we hit just the highlights of what the agenda was and anything recommendations they would like the TAC to consider, because the TAC's really going to have to be the formal body to make a recommendation to the board. And that's really been kind of my concern with the disconnect.
Yes.
Or perceived a reality, right?
Right. No, and actually, we are in the process, and Jerry, jump in if I get this wrong. We're in the process of creating that sort of new working group sort of designation. So this actually kind of started, again, based on Councilmember Avila's direction prior to that working group designation. So our thought was when this, when the board of directors actually says, hey, we are going to implement a working group designation, which has kind of looser rules and everything else. Our recommendation, the staff, was going to be take the transit group and place it as a working group, which would have identified TAC as the committee of origin. So the working group can't initiate anything. All it can do is chat about stuff, have more of that nuts and bolts sort of working discussion, and then if there was anything that needed to sort of move through as a policy or something else, the committee of origin would be TAC. I think we have sort of stepped back of making that recommendation. And so it wouldn't even have working group status. It's back to that reporting thing. And Lan, you were at all of these meetings with me as well as Jacob, right? And it goes back to Brian Vituli. So it's that meeting where those elected officials would come together and sort of and a lot of that was more informational. So at this point, I think we're going back to that informational sort of meeting.
Actually, thank you for Gail for bringing this up. I think I could use some maybe we can chat a little bit more. I was a little surprised to see this item here at the TAC. I think this is the first time I saw a transit update.
Yes,
Because of that meeting. Okay. And then with the working group designation, are we working on certain things, or is it more of a?
It was more of a nuts and bolts sort of thing. But again, I think based on comments that we received, we were backing off that and not even going to any sort of, not even that formal of a designation. So it'll sort of go back to those meetings that we used to have back when, again, we had Mayor Thompson and again, Councilmember Avila would come together and we would chat.
Would that
So
be a smaller group meeting, or is it the newer format?
that will be up to again, Councilmember Williams. But again, the last thing that we were instructed to do by Councilmember Avila was make it bigger. That we were inviting CDOT because one, CDOT has money now and they have the TCS study and they have, and we were also, Laquito, and we're also talking about the, that we were instructed front range passenger rail. So we have Chelsea Gunduck because she's the City of Colorado Springs front range passenger rail representative. So she was on the invite list. The council member whose name eludes me now, Yes, Councilmember Crow-Iverson was on the invite list because she was the PPACG front range passenger rail. Now, obviously, at the last board meeting, I think it was Mitch LeKine from Mountain is our new one. So he will be invited. So again, unless I'm given, and obviously since Councilmember Williams is now the designated transit representative, I will take her direction. If she says, don't talk about front range passenger rail anymore, we won't. But I would hope that she would not do that because again, there's a lot of things that are happening with that. And this is really the only avenue by which folks can get a lot of that information. But I will do what I'm told.
Great, thank you for the update. Where am I at now? Sorry. CDOT updates.
Kathleen, you want to go
Hello,
first?
Yes, please. So this is Kathleen. First of all, I want to clarify, I did chat with Jamie Collins about the tip and the due date of July 1, and she definitely confirmed what John had stated is correct, that although CDOT would love it if it was a requirement of the MPOs to submit their tips by July 1 when they submit them, that it is not something that CDOT is in a position to force MPOs to do, but it's more of a strongly encouraged type of deal. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know a few updates at CDOT HQ. Nathan Lindquist is leaving CDOT. He's going to go work at Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm not sure what his role is down there, but it sounds like it's exciting and planning related. We also have 2 new interns starting. They started this Monday. Their names are Mario Dino and Amanda Cabot, and we're excited to have them. Also, the comment period for both the statewide plan for the 2050 planning horizon, along with the rural transportation planning region plans, they are going to go out for public comment in early August, from what I understand. And then we did just finish up a statewide transportation survey for the statewide plan, and then we are getting those results compiled. The next STAC meeting, the July STAC was canceled, and the August meeting is now scheduled for August 7th. And that's pretty much all I have for updates from CDOT HQ for planning.
Thank you, Kathleen. Anybody else from CDOT?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Kathleen stole my thunder about the regional transportation plans that we're working through towards the final draft for our rural partners for our TPRs. One tidbit unrelated to that, but which we're pretty proud of, being good stewards of your tax dollars. So far through the end of June of this year, Region 2 has spent 111% of our forecasted construction expenditures. And so that really means that we are moving forward quite well with our planned projects around the entire region, not just within this MPO. And
So you're giving 111%?
yes. Yes, John. I never know how to respond. And let's see there. We had an update. I'm trying to quickly go through my notes. We had an update at, I want to say, last week's statewide MPO meeting on the Transit and Active Transportation Senate Bill 25-030 from Medora Bornhoft at our headquarters. I cannot give you too much of a synopsis of that, but I can follow up this quick update with more information from her. But this is the legislation that requires MPOs and the state to develop an inventory or a list of projects to address gaps in the transit and active transportation network. And just as a friendly reminder, that legislation has set a deadline of December 31st of 2025 for member governments to submit all planned projects to their MPOs. And by July 1st of next year, 2026, MPOs must have created their inventory of these active transportation and transit gaps in the network. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So if I might, Madam Chair, as a follow-up, our plan internally at PPACG, Lisa drew the short straw and is going to be our designated 2030 or Senate Bill 3030 person. And our plan is to look at, again, unfortunately, the state legislature looked at all MPOs as being the same when we're not, and we all have different levels of stuff. Here in the PPACG region, we just finished the long-range plan. We have the active transportation plan. We have the transit plan that, again, our friends at MMT took the lead on. So we have a lot of this information. So our strategy moving forward is for us to sort of, and I say us, so Lisa's going to do all the heavy lifting, is to sort of grab all the stuff that we already have, as well as the outline of how GAP is defined and determined through the thing. And we want to send it out to you guys. And then if it meets with everything that you're doing and we captured everything, and again, it doesn't have to be everything, because that's one of the things we talked about is what is the standard, right? Is a standard for transit like, oh, well, you don't have bus service on every road for every 15 minutes. Well, then everything needs to be identified. So we've sort of said, let's identify, and we're talking about, our headways, or we're talking only principal arterials, et cetera, et cetera. So as that happens, we'll put together the list, we'll send it out to you guys. And if we've captured everything, you can say, this is everything that El Paso County or Green Mountain Falls or whatever has planned. I need that in writing so I can put it in the appendix, or Lisa can put it in the appendix to say that you've complied. If it's not, then just say, hey, you guys missed some stuff because it didn't rise to the regional level for your PPACG plans. However, we would still like it included. Then you give us a list of those projects. We'll probably want some sort of digital sort of format so we can grab your stuff and add it to the other stuff for any sort of mapping. And then we'll just add that again to the appendix. So we're trying to understand how big of an elephant this is. And to the extent we can cut up that elephant into bite-sized pieces for the jurisdictions, we're going to do it. But
thank you for that.
We don't know what we don't know. And I think they're still determining what exactly the intent was. And then even though while they were running it through the legislature, we said, hey, you're not clear on the intent. We'd like to know that. So they ignored that, and now they're trying to make it up. They being the people who wrote the bill, not CDOT. CDOT's great, and they're doing their best. Any other questions? I'm still waiting to see if Kate pulls out a baseball bat and comes at me.
I do have something more to add, Madam Chair.
Okay.
So continuing on the CDOT updates and everything, the Clean Transit Enterprise is still developing their formula funding for Senate Bill 260, 230. Yeah, but it's the one that was the oil and gas fee. So they're just working on that right now. And there will also be a discretionary funding as well. About 10% of that is going to be discretionary. So that's still in the works. I was hoping to come with some solid numbers here, but we're still figuring that out. The Lono bus application, FTA, I'm sure MMT is already aware of this, but that is open. I do believe there might have been a letter of intent that needed to be submitted. But that's open and everything and ready to go. And then lastly, the TCS, the Transit Connection Study, that was just presented to TC yesterday. So there is a hard copy for us, and I will get that to the TAC and present it to the board here when I get that in hand.
I want to ask a question. You said that TCS was presented. Was that presented just by what DTR had put together, or was it with collaboration with the regional partners?
It was DTR has presented it.
Okay, so not coordinated with the regional entities. Thank you.
Great. Any other CDOT updates? Definitely
another
get one bite at this apple.
Sorry, this is exciting. We also heard internally from the new program manager. Oh my gosh. It doesn't matter. I'll come back with the information. But TAP grants, we're expecting early 2026, as specific as that is, for that next TAP call for projects. I believe the current is fiscal years 24 and 25.
So these are CDOT TAPs, not the TAP that's being run through.
Right. I can't speak to their direct allocation for the NPO. That's the region-wide TAP and statewide TAP, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. The TAP, when it comes into the state, the state takes some and then the MPOs get some. I want to say it's 85-15, but I think I'm remembering an MMOF distribution. But basically, we get our own direct distribution, but then Region 2 gets the state and the 5 regions all get an allocation, and then they put out an application process. So El Paso County, I know you've had some difficulty when you go in. They say, "Oh, well, you're already getting that MPO bite at the apple," and you have to explain to them, "No, this project is outside the MPO boundary, and I can't get that TAP money." So that's always sort of a concern. So basically, if you're outside the MPO, this is the money that you have a better shot at. Although technically, if you're in the MPO, you should still be eligible. But again, speaking from experience, Victoria, they have not looked favorably on MPO-based applications. Am I being mean?
No, I think you're being fair, and the money for the Central Front Range is so unbelievably small that you really can't even do a project with it. It's like $200,000 to $300,000, and so it's tough. Yeah. Any further CDOT updates? Member entity announcements. Anybody around the room or online?
Madam Chair, I have some updates. Mountain Metro is starting our fall service change prep work, and the information should be released here in the next week. Also for public comment, our normal service change could be as small as stop adjustment, could be major as system overhaul. So this one is more of a mid-sized. We are carrying forward with our 2050 long range plan transportation in terms of adding more services on Sundays, which requires additional drivers. We're also looking at adding stops on certain routes and also responding to our partner requests from both UCCS and Manitou Springs. So once we have that information, we'll maybe share this with PPACG staff so we can send it to the TAC members. Scott mentioned the Lono application. We did submit our application for a fuel vehicle addition in support of the express bus network that we expect to receive funding from Senate Bill 230 oil and gas funding. And we just received our very first round of hybrid vehicles that 4 out of the 6 vehicles will be here in service very soon.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So I just have one quick one. I would like to welcome our new executive director of the Department of Public Works at El Paso County. Jack Ladley has moved up from deputy executive director to our new executive director. So I'd like to welcome him. He is a great person to work with and thrilled that he got that promotion. Items for our future tech meetings.
Will, did you have something I was supposed to mention? Hey, Will, why don't you come up and tell everybody about StreetRight?
That's why you have good staff like Will.
Hello, Streetlight is going to be doing a quick demo following next month's TAC. Right now, Colorado Springs and El Paso County are really the two jurisdictions that are really taking advantage of the service. Colorado Springs, I know that they're utilizing Streetlight across multiple departments. Everybody from parks to public works and engineering is using it. But the license is available to everybody in the region. So all of the member governments, sorry, CDOT, but all the local member governments get free access to it, can run unlimited number of analysis. And so we thought, well, maybe not everybody's quite aware of what that covers, what it provides. It's more than just maybe estimating traffic counts. So if you're interested in some kind of like drive time analytics, they're going to do a quick demo and following TAC. So for those that are interested, you're welcome to stay online and keep watching. Also, we'll send out a special link. So if you have other departments that maybe aren't even aware of what we have in the streetlight service, you can forward that to different people within, your jurisdiction, and they're welcome to attend. It'll be real quick, like I said, like 20 minutes, and then we'll have some Q&A. But they'll just walk through and give a real quick overview of, hey, this is everything that's paid for. This is what's included. And if you'd like to learn more about this, then they have free training and everything online. And they're happy to also work with you guys to help set up different analysis runs. So they're just going to we're just trying to get the word out so that more people are taking advantage of it. It's got a lot of pretty cool analysis functions. And like I said, we just don't think everybody's quite aware of it. So we're just trying to get the word out. So that'll be following next month's TAC.
Thank you, Will. Any other items that we need to chat about? Okay, perfect. So at 3:01, I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.